Are the files on your computer safe if they were to fail today? If not, don't worry, we're going to be diving into some of the things that I've used to keep my files safe. What's up, friends? Paul here, and today we'll be diving into how to back up your files and to have a good system in place so that once your hard drive fails, or both of your hard drive fails, and then your computer fails, you have something in place that will keep your files safe so that you don't lose important information. So to give you a little backstory, I have lost files in the past. I've lost a hard drive. I've lost a website, basically the server that was hosting my stuff all of a sudden went down. And I've been in that situation where I didn't have a backup. And let me tell you, it is a painful thing to not have a backup. Luckily, in many of those cases, it was not very important. I mean, it did take work to get back to where things were, but it still was painful. So I'm going to hopefully help you avoid some of that pain, because hard drives failing is somewhat inevitable. It's likely to happen at some point. And just so you know, if at any point you want to check out some of the resources mentioned, I'll be sure to leave links in the description on where to back up things, some of the things that I like to use. So be sure to check that out. So first of all, I mean, this is a pretty obvious one, but why should you back up your files? I mean, if you haven't experienced data loss, maybe you're just hoping that things will continue trucking along as they've been. But it can be devastating to lose your work, whether it's a paper that you wrote for college or a collection of songs that you've personally recorded. Basically, if it gets lost, you're back to a baseline and you have to do a lot more hard work to get back to where you were. And so the painful part is that realizing that it isn't difficult to have a system in place that could prevent what just happened. So my hope is to help you not get to that place where you lost all your files. So the first step to a good backup system is having a plan. So one of the big things that they talk about in the IT world is this 3-2-1 backup system. And I'm just going to dive into what that looks like. So it means having 3 copies of data. So that's the 3 in the 3 backup rule. And then you will have, we're going to go crazy on this, 2 copies stored usually locally on different devices or mediums. So maybe it's floppy disk, maybe it's a USB drive, maybe, different hard drives. That's what that could look like. And then the last one is one offsite, I can't spell, backup. So that way, if let's say your house floods, you had maybe two copies locally and the house flooded, it destroyed it. You've got 1 copy offsite. And so I think that's a valuable thing, is that just having kind of like a system where you know that if something were to happen, you've got multiple copies. I personally don't quite have a complete 3-2-1 backup system. And depending on your needs, you might be comfortable getting away with a 2-1 system. Sometimes maybe throwing in that third for the extra important documents. So completely up to you. But basically, just to give you an idea of the different stuff that I store. So I've got my local storage, on my computer. I've got a MacBook Pro that has 1 terabyte worth of data. And then I've got a desktop downstairs, and then hard drive. So this is a 14 terabyte hard drive. It's a very simple WD Elements hard drive. I'll leave a link in the description to check out all of this stuff. And then I've also got this Samsung T7 SSD. I love these things. If you're looking for a fast hard drive, definitely check this out. I've actually made a video about SSDs if you want to check that out. But I use the SSD for active projects. So even having a system for how you store your files, some people will do this. They'll have an SSD where they have the active files, and then they might buy a cheaper traditional hard drive, because it's a lot cheaper to get traditional hard drives versus SSDs, a solid state storage. So that's something, devices. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you just need something cheap to back it up, you might have SSD for active warm projects, and then for cold storage, you might use something like this or one of the like portable versions of this. But this is, again, 14 terabytes. So this is like my cold storage. I basically offload projects that aren't active, either on my computer or on here, to that drive. That way it's not bogging down my system and I've got space to spare. And then I have another hard drive that's like a terabyte, but I just rarely visit that one. That's like cold storage. It's like freezing storage. And then the other one that I have, so maybe I should start listing this out so you can, like, if you're interested in learning more. So local storage, besides what I've got in the computers, I've got a WD Elements, and I'll call this cold storage. Oh, I guess that's already bold. So WD Elements, and then I've got a Samsung, formatting's going crazy, SSD. And so you might be wondering, okay, so you've got these different devices that you're, oh, this is warm storage. So I'm going to take that out and then warm, basically your active projects. Oops, Samsung, and then computer. Great. So, okay, so these are like the different like cold and warm storage. And so typically I've got these two as far as like actual physical storage. And then in the cloud, I've got a couple of different things I've used a bunch of different things over the years, and I still have accounts with some of them, but the main ones that I use today is Google Workspace for business storage. I think it's an awesome option. And then I also have Box for like other files. And then I've also have sort of like photo backup. And I actually use Amazon Photos because if you have Amazon Prime, it is free to back up unlimited amounts of photos. And there was an amazing story that I remember watching from Amazon. I think they were kind of advertising their photos feature, and basically it was a photographer, and they lost their hard drive, local hard drive, and they thought they lost all of their photos, like a huge part of their work. And then they realized that they had Amazon Photos and everything was backed up, which is amazing. So if you have Amazon Photos, I highly recommend checking this out. If you have Amazon Prime, I highly recommend signing up for Amazon Photos, because basically you can install it on your phone and have that back up that. You can install it on your computer and back up any of your files. And like photos are something that you might want to have, 2 or more backups, because, it's like your life experiences that, you can share with people. It's neat to have. So that's what I do for photo backup, is the Amazon Photos for those type of things. And then you might be wondering, okay, so these are like kind of off in the cloud. How do we back up these two? And for that, I use one of my favorite tools, Backblaze. And this is something I recently decided to like implement. Probably, I think it's been over a year. Maybe almost 2 or 3 years. But like basically this is a great way to back up both your warm storage, your computer, and your cold storage for a reasonable price. Especially if you've got a lot of files. I think that's where this comes in handy. And if you're curious what that looks like, so I've got Backblaze right here. It just runs in the background. You can see that it continuously backs up things. So it's got like over 5 terabytes of storage, and you can see that it's got remaining files, so it continually backs up. Like if it notices that there's new files or things that need to be updated, it'll go ahead and do that, which is awesome. You can pause the backup. You can say like what you want done. You can see the approximate backup speed. But yeah, it's just very simple, easy to do. Like you can exclude certain things if you want, but I've been very happy with it. It's like ridiculously simple to get started. So yeah, I just love Backblaze because it's super simple, easy to get started, and like basically you got that peace of mind that's running in the background, backing up your computer, backing up your attached hard drives. And this is something to keep in mind, that they will like delete your data on a hard drive if it's not plugged into your computer within a certain amount of time. I believe at one point it was 30 days. It might still be, but I believe I'm on like a year of revisions. So I'm pretty sure that I can go basically a year without plugging in these hard drives, but typically I like to keep them plugged in maybe once a month. Just remember to do that so you don't lose that data, that backup. Otherwise, it's kind of useless to have that. But yeah, you just plug it into your computer, have it back up in while you're doing what you normally do. And it's just great to have that peace of mind. And my recommendation is the simpler the plan, the better. Don't overcomplicate where possible. So if you don't have a ton of files yet, like if you have below 20 terabytes, you might want to be, you might be better off like not getting a fancy NAS system that you have to maintain. But once you hit above 20 terabytes or so, you need access to your database outside of your house, getting a NAS system or unlimited cloud storage might be the right answer. The funny thing was I was looking at unlimited storage for a while, and the two that I kind of found to be decent were Google Workspace and Dropbox. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if Dropbox still has their plan. Typically, you had to have at least like 3 or 5 users on either of these to get the unlimited storage. So something to look into if that's something that you're interested in. But I know that those were some of the ones that I felt more comfortable putting my information, valuable files into because I felt like they're pretty reliable. But again, just try to keep it as simple as possible. For example, my system's pretty simple. I typically have my SSD for active projects, or I use also the Google Workspace cloud for certain like client work that I need to quickly share with them. It's just great to have that readily available so that they can access files, and it's super simple to share files. That's what I would say. And then just in case you're curious how much it costs for these different plans. So for the Backblaze, it's pretty cheap, and I'll leave links again, and if you use some of the links there, you might even support the channel. So thank you in advance. It's super simple pricing. They did recently raise their price a little bit, but I still think it's worth it. So about like $100 per computer per year with no surprise charges, plus monthly, yearly, 2-year billing flexibility to suit your needs. So $9 a month or $99 a year or $189 for 2 years. If you have multiple users, it looks like it's basically the same price. So nothing much, but unlimited and automatic backups. So it's easy to use and affordable and predictable. And you can see like how it stacks up against the competition. I think it is a very solid option. I've been very happy with it. So would recommend checking it out. Obviously do your own research on all of this. Like I don't want to like blanketly say that if you do this, your files are going to be safe. Like you do want to have, you want to be the one to say like, I chose this and this is how I'm protecting my files, and whatever happens, I'm taking responsibility for that. But yeah, I've been happy with Backblaze. Definitely worth giving them a check out. And then Dropbox, another solid storage option. When I've used them in the past, very happy with it. And they've got different plans. At one point, I believe they had a plan where you did get unlimited. Maybe under Enterprise, they still offer it. I don't know if they do anymore. But basically, it starts at $10, or they do have a free plan for that's like, or do they still have a free plan? I don't even see it here. They did in the past. I'm guessing they probably have it. But anyways, that's another storage option to check out. My personal favorite, because you get so much, especially if you run a business or you need to have a custom domain and you want Google things, Google Workspace, I think it's just like a solid bang for your buck, because like this is the one I've got, this business standard. You get 2 terabytes of storage per user. And you get like the whole suite of Google Workspace, Gmail, Drive, Meet, Calendar, Chat, Docs, Sheets, Slides. You get the picture. You get all that within that pricing. So that's with the 1-year commitment. They do have an enterprise plan if you're interested. And I believe that there was a way that would turn into unlimited if you had like 5 users. So it might be worth looking into if you do have a ton of data and need that. I would definitely contact them about that. So let's just quickly recap. So the 3-2-1 backup rule is basically you have 3 different copies of data on 2, and then 2 different copies stored locally on different devices or mediums or media. And then you want one offsite backup. And so I personally probably have a 2-1, sometimes 3-2-1 backup, depending on the files. So I've got my warm and cold storage for active projects and cold for the archival storages. Storage. Yeah, I've got like a 14 terabyte. I don't know why I didn't put this in earlier. 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte. And then like Backblaze currently is backing up like my 5 terabytes of data that I currently have. And then Amazon Photos, definitely check out if you've got Amazon Prime, just a very simple way to back up your photos without having a hassle. And then for cloud storage, Google Workspace, honestly, if you've got a business or need that, you can check that out. If you're more into the Microsoft ecosystem, they also have a similar package that you can check out. I just went with Google since I think they had a better fit for what I needed at the time. So yeah, I highly recommend just having a system in place that you know, like if one of your hard drives failed today, you could easily just restore the data and not have to worry about redoing projects because that could be a pain. So if you want to check out any of the resources mentioned, I'll leave links in the description. But what about you? What type of backup system do you use? And what is your favorite tools for backing up your data, cloud storage, your hard drives, you name it? Would love to hear it. And just to let you know, I'm working on a planner for creatives. If you'd like to know when that launches, I'll leave a link to sign up to my newsletter. That way you get updates on the project and other things that I'm working on. Would love to have you in the fam. And until next time, my friends, before you go, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, wherever you listen to podcasts, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, wherever it is that you're watching this or listening to this, be sure to give us your support. I would love it if you could do that. And until next time, my friends, stay messy.